The Navajo people, our tribe, we are a matrilineal people, and our identities come from our mother's mother. So my mother's mother is actually American, of Dutch heritage, and so when I introduce myself, I have to acknowledge her and her family, and so I say, Sinbeket de Ne'nishlim, which translated means the wooden shoe people. My father's mother, my second clan, is Toaheglini, which is the waters that flow together. My third clan, my mother's father, is also Sinbeket de Ne'nishlim, and my father's father, my fourth clan, is Totochitni, which is the Bitterwater clan, one of the original clans of our Navajo tribe. Over the past several years, I have been doing a lot of teaching, studying, and helping people understand the history of the United States of America. And one of the challenges that we have as a nation is that we don't know our history. We don't know how this country was founded, and the history of the nation is actually deeply embedded with the history of the church. So when I go back and teach this history, I actually start by teaching the history of the church. So to understand this, we have to go back to almost the first century. In the first century, we have the church on one side and we have the empire on the other. They are completely opposite entities. They're not integrated at all. And you become a member of the church through your confession, through your discipleship, through your baptism, through your community. And when you join the church, you know that you're standing in opposition to the empire. You know there's a good chance you're going to be persecuted and probably even killed because of your membership in the church. Now, in the 4th century, Constantine becomes emperor of Rome. And while he's emperor, he becomes a Christian, and he decides to Christianize Rome, to create Christendom, a Christian empire, if you will. Now, if you read the teachings of Jesus, he clearly states his kingdom was from another place. He spent his entire ministry trying to convince the people of Israel he was not coming as a political Messiah. He was coming to build disciples and to plant a church. He was not here to create a Christian empire. But Constantine, in contrast to the teachings of Jesus, creates Christendom in the 4th century. This creates a problem because the empire, even this Christian empire, is doing what empires do, which is expanding itself and protecting itself through the act of warfare. Except now that it's a Christian empire, it has Christian citizens out fighting the wars. Well, clearly a plain text reading of the teachings of Jesus doesn't allow this. And so you need theologians like St. Augustine to come in the 4th century and do some theological gymnastics to create a moral space where Christian citizens can be out fighting the wars of the empire. He creates what's known as the just war theory. Over the centuries, this just war theory morphs into what is known as the Crusades, which again is all about expanding the empire and protecting Jerusalem. And then in the 11th, 12th, and 13th centuries, you see in the writings of the papal bulls the introduction of a new term called the infidel. The infidel is primarily used to reference the Moors or the Muslims. It's later used in application to indigenous peoples, anyone who doesn't worship the God of the European Christian. This infidel is a subhuman category. And what this introduction of this term does is over the years it changes the justification for war. Now instead of needing a just war theory to go off and fight the wars as a Christian, now you can fight these wars based on your theological grounds. You're fighting the other, you're fighting the enemies of Christ, the enemies of Christendom. So it's out of that environment that in the 1400s, Pope Nicholas V writes down the words, invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens and pagans whatsoever. Reduce their persons to perpetual slavery. Convert them to his and your use and profit. This papal bull, written in 1452, along with others written between 1452 and 1493, collectively become known as what we call the Doctrine of Discovery. The Doctrine of Discovery is essentially the church in Europe saying to the nations of Europe, wherever you go, whatever lands you find not ruled by Christian rulers, those people are less than human, and the land's yours for the taking. This was literally the doctrine that let European nations go into Africa, colonize the continent, and enslave the African people. They did not believe them to be human. This is the same doctrine that let Columbus, who was lost at sea, land in this new world already inhabited by millions and claim to have discovered it. If you think about it, you can't discover lands already inhabited. That's called stealing, conquering, conquest. The fact that to this day the United States of America refers to what Columbus did as discovery reveals the implicit racial bias of the nation, which is Native Americans, people of color, are not fully human.